And I do have like a hard stop at 11 my time.
Okay, that's fine.
And welcome to your weekly Women in Entrepreneurship. I am Barb McGowan, joined as always by the fabulous and wise Nina Brennan. And welcome to anyone watching from TikTok. We have some delightful and juicy topics this week. If you're watching this live, please feel free to drop a hashtag live. Let us know that you're here. If you're watching the replay of this later, drop a hashtag replay. And also, I'm curious to know your thoughts, your questions as we go through this set of topics today. We're going to be talking about some juicy stuff, and I think part of our favorite parts of business, which is market research. So I'm going to turn it over to Nina to kind of kick it off and get us started.
I love the topic of market research. And I was talking about it this morning inside of our Facebook group, that market research never ends. And I know that you brought up a really good point before as I'm waving around my pen, that market research is not just looking at a market and writing things down. Market research, the best way to conduct it is to be inside the market, 1, asking questions, 2, generating conversations, and 3, seeing what the market actually needs by active live feedback. So the best way to do that is in the very foundational stage. If you are looking to build a personal brand with Barb McGowan, or you're trying to launch a coaching program with either Barb McGowan or myself, the best way to do this is to get yourself online and just start. Don't have a niche that's so refined where it's like, I won't work with you if you're not XYZ, but be known for a specific thing and start creating content about it. See if the market's resonating with it. And you're going to get live market research or live feedback from the market themselves, whether they like, follow, engage with your content, share your content, and everything like that. That is the foundation of market research. The next phase would be everyone who's engaging with your content or liking your content or giving you a follow, generating conversation. And I'm not talking about just getting inside the DMs and doing a copy and paste message or long form or calling someone bestie inside of the DMs, but it's actually generating a true and honest conversation to see what the other end of the conversation needs. So anyone you're talking to in the very foundational level, it's not copy and paste, it's genuinely connecting and having that conversation, seeing what their pain points are, seeing what their agitations are, seeing what the current state that they are in, and like whatever niche you're in, that's very important. Current state of business, current state of mindset, current state of whatever they're trying to achieve or overcome. And then you want to ask them about the transformation that they're looking to overcome. And that's when you try to get them on a phone call. And we'll stop there. I'll pass the phone to you, Barb. And what was it like to learn about market research for the first time, and how has it helped you scale your business?
Market research, that I'm going to get a market research tramp stamp on my back. That's how much I love it. It's funny because I didn't explicitly understand or know about market research, or that I had been kind of conducting it, indirectly or unofficially, until I was introduced to like the foundations of running a business and creating a business. And it's everything you're saying is just like resonating with me so hard and is like so in line with what my experience has been. And that's just like, and I think something that I really want to stress is like, it's having conversations with people, generating conversations, and not just like, hey, how's it going, bestie? Like you said, like copy and paste messaging, but it's like, okay, on an individual human by human basis, like where are you currently? Like what's going on in your life? What's going on in your business? What's the stuff that keeps you up at night? What are your top frustrations every day? And then taking away that conversation and figuring out how you can solve that for that person. And I think what you're going to find, and this has been my experience, is you'll hear the same things over and over, whether you're having kind of a structured like discovery call, or if you're just listening to the things that people complain about or vent about or ask questions about in your Facebook community. Like that is that direct and indirect like feedback is market research. And if you get enough of it, you can take it away and you'll notice a lot of commonalities, because if you're, creating specific messaging for your target audience, they're going to share a lot of the same pain points and problems and a lot of the same outcomes that they are trying to achieve. And then you can take that information and create a unique solution that's going to serve that person and serve those people. And that's how you build a business.
Yes. And I think that's where a lot of people are misconstrued when it comes to market research. It's, as I said before, it doesn't end. Like, Barb, I know that maybe I don't want to spill the secrets. Are we allowed to talk about what you're going to be doing over the next few months?
Sure.
Are you sure?
Am I?
Are you?
I don't know.
Up to you.
Maybe not. We'll save that secret for later. It'll come out soon enough, but
All right. So guys, you know now that Barb has something brewing for you guys watching. So that's really good. So stay tuned inside of her Facebook group because she'll have a bunch of value rolling out over the next few months. But I want to talk about why market research is so essential when you already have a client base and going inside of your internal community and inside of your internal clients and using market feedback to over deliver to the clients that you have and to serve the community that you've already built. And I think that's super important. And like, tune in, guys, for Barb's new strategy coming out soon. But let's talk about that pivotal moment of like, all right, when you're looking at your business objectively and using market research and like live feedback to make decisions in business, what do you think is a huge decision that you've made in recent that is changing the direction of your business a little bit or adding value?
I mean, I can think of two kind of specific times in the last year. The first one being, I kind of started my coaching journey by doing affiliate marketing coaching, strictly like this is how you build an affiliate marketing business and, get up and running and start making money with affiliate marketing. And some of the feedback that I kept hearing over and over and over, and that I still hear, like on TikTok, on Facebook, when I'm talking to people, just had a conversation with a gal yesterday about this, is like, I don't know how to create content. I don't know how to tell my story in content. I don't know how to capture attention of the people I'm intending to reach with my content and then get them to take some kind of action, using my content. And I kept hearing that feedback over and over again. And it's like, what they were really expressing symptoms of is like the need to know how to build an effective personal brand and not just be another, like, person of millions of people who are out there creating content that don't differentiate themselves in any way and are just kind of copying or parroting what other people are doing. And so that's kind of like hearing that over and over and coming to the realization of this is the symptom they're expressing, which is, I'm not sure what content to make, or how do I tell my story, or, that type of a thing. And what they were really saying is like, I don't know how to build a personal brand. Like, I don't have a framework for doing that. And I don't know what content to create as a result of that. And so that is what started to shift me into helping entrepreneurs to build that effective personal brand, build a community around that brand, and then be able to sell a high ticket offer within that community. And I think just most recently, and again, kind of going back to what you were saying about like the internal market research that you do with your existing client base, is seeing kind of firsthand and in real time, and also getting the feedback from, regular meetings with your existing clients. Here are the pain points I'm experiencing. And you can incorporate solutions to those pain points into your existing offer, but you can also, build another offer, kind of a second offering that caters specifically to like that top, 5 or 10% of your client base. Because I feel like that's just kind of like it's like a numbers game. Like those top 5-10% of people are going to differentiate themselves within your community. And then you can build an offer that's going to be really specifically for that small group of people. And anyway, so that's kind of another pivot I've made recently.
The best way to scale a business is to serve and overserve to the clients that are already getting results. That's how you create loyalty, and that's how you create longevity in a client base. And that's how you're able to scale, is just by not doing more, but providing more value to the people that are receiving the value from you. That's the number one thing that I wanted to bring up. And then also, again, everybody who's trying to build a personal brand, please go to Barb McGowan. She will help you build a solid personal brand online. But I do want to talk about why it's so important to build a personal brand and the difference between launching and developing a personal brand versus launching a business. And I think a lot of people misconstrue it, but you can build 30 businesses and fail 100 times. You can launch and fail and launch and flop and launch and fail. But if you ruin your reputation or your personal brand's development by being fake, by lying, by not delivering to clients, by scamming people, you only have one shot. So I think that's the importance of like building a personal brand. You can fail a million times, but if you're true and honest of who you are and how you go about things, and you know your core values and you know yourself, and you're just showing up authentically and seeking to actually provide and help people, it's very rare that your reputation is going to be tarnished. But if you do things that aren't, one, aligned with you, or two, you don't know about, or you're trying to teach things that you've never done before, or you copy somebody else verbatim and like, people catch and kind of understand what you're doing, it's going to ruin your name. And that's something that people have to understand is a personal brand online is just your reputation. So think about approaching a personal brand as you would as approaching people in person. Is that what you would say or do or act? And if it's not, you might be on the wrong trajectory of building a personal brand, and you might have to look yourself in the mirror. But if you launch and scale a business, or you launch and pop a business, you can start over and do it again.
So yeah, totally. And it's funny. I was just looking on TikTok, and this gal had made a piece of content, and it was saying that somebody had ripped off this, like, I don't know, template that this gal had put together. It was like a UGC template for, that she was giving away for free, but some other creator had stolen it and was selling it on her profile. It didn't change anything about this template. And I'm like, so the creator of the template, the original actual creator of the template made content about it, calling her out. Her fiance made content calling this gal out. And it's like, you can block people who are leaving comments about, hey, you plagiarized this chick's content. You can block people, but it doesn't matter. Like you were saying, your name it's already out there. Your face is already out there, and people know you for that. So you could close that TikTok account and show up somewhere else, but you're probably going to get found as, hey, that's that chick that copied her, and that's going to stay with you. And yeah, to your point, it's just like meeting someone in real life. You have one chance to make a first impression, but then you continue to make that first impression to people over and over because it's social media and they're maybe seeing you for the first time. But yeah, that was just wild to me to see that when I was surfing TikTok this morning.
I'm a firm believer that people can change, people could develop, and people could actually provide more value than they, had in the past, or change the way that they approach business when they learn how they should actually conduct business and stuff like that. But your audience doesn't see it that way. That's all I gotta say. So make sure that you're showing up true and who you are as a person, number one. And this actually struck me yesterday, and it's been striking me a lot these past few weeks, especially talking to clients more and more, is serving out of a place of love. And like, I know like the whole, oh, I'm a heart-led entrepreneur. I never knew what that meant because I thought it was like all fluff, like, ooh, heart-led entrepreneur. I didn't know what that meant, but it really comes from a place of serving. And I was on a sales call yesterday. Shout out to the woman I was speaking to. We actually closed, and she's going to be a client of ours. But what she said to me actually made me realize the proper way to do marketing and the proper way to do sales is to see people, hear people, and understand people, but also come from a place of love and serving always. And like I don't even realize sometimes that I do it. It's something that I had to work on tremendously internally. Like in my past, it was always me, I first. And like I did approach sales as like, I'm going to close this deal. Sorry if that was loud for anyone with headphones, because that was like, I heard it. But there's a difference between being a salesperson to be salesy or selling because you can truly help. And I think in the past like 6 to 8 months, there's been a shift internally in me of coming from a place of serve and more abundance than I already had. And now I feel like I'm actually on a phone call with people, and like it is an open space. And every single call that I open, like, yeah, it's a sales call. They go through the sales process. But I open the call with, I don't even want to pitch to you unless I know I could absolutely help you. And I always said this on the call, but I truly feel it now. And I feel like the sales are getting a lot easier because people feel more vulnerable. They don't feel pressure to actually feel, there's no like wall between us when you open a call like that. And I think it's so important. And this comes back to personal brand, is like, someone called me a sweetheart, one of our clients, and I love that. But it was just about, that's if I embrace that part of myself and approach sales and marketing that way, that's what I'm going to be known for. And people feel they can trust me, and it's actually leverage. And I feel like you give that same energy, Barb, of trust. And it's not because you're fake about it. It's just who you are as a person. It's a 4 on the Enneagram, guys. If you want to take an Enneagram test, please go do it. But when you really lean into your strengths instead of running away from them, people see it because it's truly who you are as a person. How do you think that that helped you inside of your business and grow as an entrepreneur, of like leaning into that side of yourself? Heart-led entrepreneur.
Oh man. I feel like that's such a long explanation, but I'll try to keep it concise. Like I know for me, I've gone through a number of experiences that have been like incredibly difficult. And I've also seen what pushing through that crap and then starting a business and starting, down the path of entrepreneurship, what that means in terms of if you face your fears and your discomforts and your insecurities, the good that can come out of that. And so that's kind of like, I love to, and I think it's like the teacher in me, but like, I love to see the light bulb turn on for people as they kind of hesitantly enter into entrepreneurship and experience what that feels like and build that self-efficacy and that confidence as they realize, oh, this is freaking hard, but I can do it. Like, it's a different thing to feel beaten down and like, this is hard and I don't feel like I can do it. I don't feel like I have any support and I don't feel like anybody understands like what I'm going through. That's a whole different experience, which is very like demoralizing. But I feel like on the other side of that, which is this is hard. I've never done this before. I feel like I suck at it, but I feel like I might be able to do this, or I feel like I can do this, or I can get through this. And I do have support and community. But I think that it's like an attitude thing. And if you can have that conversation where you're really vulnerable with people and just exactly like what you're saying, like I'm going to be fully transparent with you because I want to know if I can help you. And so the more transparent you get, like you are with me, then the more that I can kind of determine if this is going to be a good fit, but, yeah, I don't know if that answers that question. I have so much more that I think it would be like hours long conversation, but, embracing the part of me, like I love connection. I love like, it's funny. I hate small talk and I'm sure you do too, cause you're a 4, but I think 4s were like, we want to go to, hey, what's your like most painful trauma? Like, tell me about that, because I want to know what motivates people. And like, I want to like know people so deeply so that I can help them deeply and see that unfolding process take place, because that's so gratifying. And so if that's part of who you are, if you're an Enneagram 4, and if you like go to enneagraminstitute.com, I'll drop the link, or you can take my free personal branding course and it's linked in there as well. But like, get to know yourself deeply so that you can find out the parts of you that you can turn into serving others, the parts of you that come naturally, that are just like part of your personality, part of who you are. And something I was thinking about as you were talking is like Brad's an 8, and 8s are wild. But something that I appreciate about Brad, because, and for those of you who don't know, Brad is Nina's business partner, but he's very like, move at a fast pace, like in your face, like holds you accountable, And I think that something I appreciate about him is that he's such a pusher, if you like Mean Girls, you're a pusher, but he's a pusher, and he like takes personal pride in helping his clients to achieve results. And so I think where he comes from is different than like where I come from. Like I love watching the humanity unfold and like the accomplishment of like your spirit growing as as a person. And he approaches things, I think, from a different perspective, which is like, these are the results you got. Like these are the on paper numbers, like the results that you got. And everyone has some kind of, internal thing that compels them to help other people. And I think if you really get in touch with that, it's so gratifying to be of service to people in that way that feeds you and also makes you money. So that's pretty dope.
Yeah, coming back to like the 8, it's so important to know yourself. And I feel like the Enneagram will always tell you about who you are and how you can best serve people. And even if you don't know yourself as well, like when you're reading it out loud, it's like, oh wait, that is me. Those are some characteristic traits that I do embody. And I think the good thing about having an 8 inside of business is, one, seeing potential. And like Brad's so good at seeing people's potential. And 2, he's very good at pushing people into their potential. But the in between of like that dark night of the soul that people, if you are going to build a business, guys, there's going to be many iterations of self. But Brad sees current self and situation versus potential self and situation, and he will do anything to get you there. But he won't let you make excuses. Whereas like 4s, on the other hand, will help kind of kick the ass up of like, make sure that you're stepping up. Oh, I see you for where you are, but you got to step it up. And I think that's why the balance works in business. But Barb, I think that you have an 8 wing, so you're really good at doing both. In a sense of like, you're very good because you lead by example, as 4s do. But you also have that nurturing sense. So it's like you could see the potential, but you'll do everything you can to get people there from a nurturing standpoint. And I think that's why your business scaled so quickly. Be like Barb, guys. Be like Barb.
Well, something I was just thinking, I took it off my desk. I was like, just looking at my pile of books over here to see if I had it. There's this book called The Complete Enneagram. You should read it. You, Nina, but also anyone that's watching this. Complete Enneagram by Beatrice Chestnut. But it gives you so much more information about your Enneagram subtype, and we don't need to get like super in depth with it. But my Enneagram subtype of like the type of 4 that I am, because, you know, not all 4s are the same. Not all numbers are the same, but tend to resemble that of an 8, which is funny to me, but also totally makes sense. Like, I enjoy confrontation, not in like a, you know, violent, crazy way, but I like hearing kind of different trains of thought and challenging people, you know, and I think that's really what it comes down to is I enjoy challenging people, which might come off as, you know, confrontational, which I guess it is a little bit to an extent, but it's for the purpose of pushing you forward and pushing you to become that higher version of yourself, which I'm like so about, because that's been my life. And it's been like, you know, becoming the higher version of myself has been such an amazing, gratifying experience for me personally. I want other people to have it. And I want to be witness to that and be part of helping cause that, you know?
And that never ends. So the higher version of self, when you think you've reached that next level of self and that next level of shedding, there's always another level that you have to get through and another level that you have to unlock. And I think it's super essential to bring a point because everyone goes through this iterative process of self if you are looking to build a business online. And that's why it's so important to be truthful about who you are, not to the internet, like yes, to the internet, but most importantly to self. And I think it's important to understand like the strengths and weaknesses that we were talking about before, but also the insecurities that we face as we're trying to step into that next level. And they could come out in limiting beliefs, they can come out in behaviors, patterns, and traits like that, or they could even come out in the standards that you hold for yourself. And I know that we always talk about highs and lows of standards and accepting or not accepting and receiving and not receiving, but I want to talk about insecurities at different levels. And we can be vulnerable. I'm okay with being vulnerable, and I know that you are too, but insecurities from when we started our businesses last year and met last year versus insecurities that we're facing now as we're leveling into this new phase of business for each of our businesses. So would you want to be transparent with your audience,
Oh,
Barbara?
girl, I love being transparent. I feel like I thrive on just vulnerability and transparency these days, which is funny because it's such a departure, just side note, from where I was like 5.5 years ago when I was right about to go into rehab and was at the pinnacle of, I can't let anyone know who I really am because, you know, shame, because they will see who I really am and be like, nope, we don't want any of that. But what I learned from that experience is the importance of being transparent, and being vulnerable and real and just embracing all your shit. Anyway, that said, so some of my fears and insecurities, they were so basic. And I'm sure if you're watching this right now, like shout out you, but raise your hand if you've been like, okay, I'm going to create content for the first time. I'm going to post my first TikTok video. Everybody's going to heckle me. People are going to be like, oh, you're so stupid. Who cares about what you have to say? Like people are going to come out of the woodwork to like, you know, come into my comments and put hate comments. Don't we all? And it's funny because I think that's number one, shows how self-focused we are. Everyone is like this. So it's like, that should give you some kind of feeling of anonymity in creating content, because everyone else that's watching your content doesn't care about what your hair looks like. They don't care about the lighting and it being perfect and not seeing the reflection in your glasses. They're more concerned about themselves. And so if you can make your content about them, perfect, because that's what they're looking for anyway. But so I was like totally afraid, like people are going to heckle me. People are going to think I'm worthless and stupid. Really, that was my own internal fears and insecurities. And I just projected that on other people and, starting to create content. What I found was I started creating content and I found community, because I got to be my real authentic self and just like be awkward and say, welcome to my TikTok. Like, come on, that's not even a real thing. But it was like so cringy, but people will embrace you for being your real self. Your people, hey, Jill, your people will embrace you for being your real authentic self. And isn't that freeing? Like that you can just be your real authentic self and be of service to other people. Like that's like the culmination of everything that feels good, and you get paid for it. Anyway, so that's like where I started. Those were like my fears and insecurities when I started. At this point, I'm like, let's see, what are my fears and insecurities? I feel like it's more like the legacy that I want to leave behind. Like, am I leaving behind the thing that I want to leave behind? Am I impacting people like hard enough? Am I, you know what I mean? Like, am I doing enough to help people change their lives or shape their lives, or giving them the tools that they need to be equipped to take their life and their business to the next level? And I think that that's like the stuff that I think about now. Like that's the stuff that keeps me up at night. And it's less focused on like the most, like the silliest things, like, oh, are people going to make fun of my hair or whatever? Nobody cares about that. And just to see the difference in where I was a year and a half ago in terms of the level of like what I was afraid of versus now, I think it just kind of paints the picture of like the trajectory of growth that I experienced. So I guess it's good to be worrying about bigger and better things than, if people are going to criticize the way that I always wear a robe in my content, which I don't do anymore. Thank you.
Yeah. I loved watching you grow over this past year. It's been an amazing journey. Just one, getting to know you and like seeing your soul, Barb. You're an amazing person, but also just like watching you grow as a business owner and watching you like we've both faced ups and downs, and I feel like we've supported each other through them. And it was just like seeing you at your highs and seeing you at the lows and seeing you push through both. It was just, it's amazing. And watching you grow as a human is just amazing. And I haven't known you for so long, but a year can do a lot for somebody.
Dude,
so,
yes.
It's been awesome.
Well, and I feel like nothing kind of brings people together or galvanizes people like in friendship or in relationship, like having a shared goal or a shared vision. You know what I mean? And like overcoming kind of shared challenges. Like, do you know what I mean? And so and that kind of speaks to the importance of like finding community and finding accountability. And Jill, who is one of my clients, is watching this live. Like, it's funny, and I'm sure she doesn't mind me sharing about her accountability group, but I kind of randomly assigned accountability groups with my existing clients in my coaching group. And Jill and Colleen and Kelly Love, they actually just went on a camping trip together, like I think in New Hampshire, because they grew so close, during the last several months. And that's just like, that's like priceless. Like those kind of relationships that supersede anything about business is just like amazing,
Yeah, they're like soul connections. And that, like Barb and I never met in person, everyone watching, but I feel like I can go to you for anything. I could talk to you about anything, and I hope that you feel the same this way.
Oh, 100.
So, I want to share an insecurity that might help the audience about where they are if they are just learning to build a personal brand online and getting themselves out there. So believe it or not, guys, about a year and 3 months ago, it's now June, July, a year and 4 months ago, I got myself on TikTok and started taking TikTok for business seriously. And I'm not going to lie, one of my biggest insecurities about getting online was people are not going to listen to what I have to say, and I don't have enough value to bring to the table. Like, yeah, I've been running my business and helping people build their business with brand strategy and copywriting before I launched Creative Brand Framework. but I was horrendously terrified to put myself on camera. I was scared that I wasn't going to be able to deliver to clients or even land clients to the trajectory that we wanted to land, of scaling to over 100 clients this year. And that was the biggest bullshit insecurity that I've ever had. But it was still an insecurity, and it still hindered me from doing a lot more than I was capable of. So if you do feel that insecurity, see where it's coming from. It's super important, because imagine like this time last year, you've seen the videos, Barb, the difference of person.
Yeah.
But it's just about, maybe you don't have to see the worth and value that you bring to the table, but don't stop that from letting you actually do what you need to do, or bringing the value to the table that you know you can actually provide. That's my first tip from like the insecurity that I faced from this time last year. And the insecurity now, it's just like leveling into that next version of self that I want to be. And it's like, I think I'm a little bit insecure of the direction I want to take my life and business, because I never expected to be at this point at such a young age. So it's like, I'm very grateful for where I am and where I'm going. I just don't know exactly the trajectory of like which direction to pivot in. And I think that insecurity, it's not even insecurity, it's like an uncertainty of the next move. And I feel like the lack of action that I was taking over the past month has been like amplifying in other parts of my life. And it's something that I have to take a look at. And I think it is that threshold of like, am I able to provide this value? Am I able to handle what I'm handling? And I have to connect what I've been doing to the being that I am. I know we talk about be, do, have model always, but I've been in such a state of doing that when I started being, I couldn't connect the dots of everything that I've been doing. So I have to bring that self to self. I have to understand where I am and who I am, even though I feel like a different level. Does that make sense?
To me, yeah.
I don't know if that could translate perfectly well to an audience, but it's just, when you level up and you're not present and paying attention to who you are or what you're doing, you might need some time and reflection to really see like how much you've grown in the past. And like, yes, I've grown tremendously this year, but I haven't taken the time to presently look at everything that I've done. And I think that's what's causing an insecurity right now, is am I actually able to handle everything that I built? And that's like what I stepped into this past month. And it's like, well, you've done it, so why not? So sometimes it's just playing that catch up.
Dude,
Does that make sense?
No, it totally doesn't. I was thinking, like, as you were talking, a couple things, it's like, if you are climbing up a mountain, like if you're hiking Half Dome, which I live very close to Yosemite. So
watch Free Solo.
Oh my gosh, I would die. But if you're hiking Half Dome, you are like literally have your head down and you're holding on to like the cables on the side, and you're like just going step by step, literally. That's all you're doing. You're not looking around. You're not doing nothing. When you get up to the top and you look down at like, it literally gives you vertigo. Like they tell you, don't walk out to the edge because people fall off and die. You have to like crawl out to the edge and like look over and be like, wow, look how far I've come. And it's like discombobulating. And there's like you have to like kind of regain your sense of like how far you've come and where you are, and kind of take stock of that. And so that's what it just reminded me of. The other thing that was coming up as you were talking, and I wrote it down, is like the idea of self-fulfilling prophecy, which Google it if you're not familiar. But basically it's like the expectation or belief that we have about something brings that into being based on our unconscious and conscious like biases and actions towards that initial belief. And so when you were talking about like having the fear of not being enough, not being able to do enough, and having that, like acknowledging that held you back. Of course it does. Like the fears that we have can hold us back if we don't like push through them. And then like you said, be, do, have, you become like the person worthy of, hitting those milestones in business and building something successful. And then you're doing it, like you're taking those actions, and then you have the thing, like lastly, so I just wanted to throw that out there before we begin to wrap up.
Yeah, stop. So take us out strong, Barb.
Oh man. I love how this whole conversation shifted from market research, which is so like tangible and like a hard science type of thing. I feel like if there are any like takeaways, oh, gosh, so there's like 13,000 I can think of. Number one, whatever the thing is that you're afraid of, do that thing, because that's going to lead to the most growth. And I'm talking to myself, that's going to lead to the most growth and the fastest growth. And it's okay to be terrified and feel like discombobulated and be, just be afraid and insecure, but do that thing anyway, because in a year and a half or in a year, you're going to look back and be like, I can't believe I was worried about that. But that's also going to give you perspective about the things that you currently fear and are insecure about, because you're going to look back on another, in another year and a half time and be like, I can't believe I was afraid of that. And that just builds and builds and compounds, because as you level up yourself and your business at each stage, your fears and your insecurities, they're not going to go away. You never like arrive and you never stop being afraid, but those fears just like become different and become bigger, but you become more capable and equipped to handle them. So do you have anything to add?
No, just don't let insecurities stop you from doing, and don't let doing stop you from being. I guess that's it.
All right. The mushroom cloud is erupting. All right. Thank you for joining this week's Women in Entrepreneurship. Next week, we are going to be in Nina's group, Women in Entrepreneurship, on Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern, 11 o'clock Mountain. You're in Mountain time now, right? Okay. So just, and 12 Central. So now we've covered all our bases in North America-ish, more, or at least the US. Anyway, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining live. Thank you for joining on TikTok. And we will see you guys next week. Peace.
Bye, everyone. Bye, TikTok.